It had been 2 years of being single, and I was ready to start dating. My friends were always discussing meeting guys on Tinder, so I decided to give it a shot. I downloaded the Tinder app and created my profile. Since I had a lot of photos, it took me some time to find the stunning ones that I could upload and set up my bio. I swiped through the profiles of different guys and came across some good-looking ones. One of the guys on the app, known as David, really caught my attention, and I liked his profile. I felt pretty lucky when he liked my profile and showed the same interest in me. I was open to finding the idea of a match online, and so I sent him a message. A few minutes later, he replied politely, and we got to know each other a little better, and we planned on meeting up the next day. That night, I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep, and as soon as I got off of work, I drove to the meeting point. He showed up on time, and we had coffee in a restaurant. Though he was handsome, I wasn't comfortable with the date since he seemed so possessive. I decided to leave early and never see him again. Though I made my intentions clear, David followed me without my knowledge. He didn't back off since he broke into my house a couple of days later. I was so afraid when I found him sitting on my couch. He said that I had to be his because he was tired of looking for a partner and threatened to harm me. Luckily, my brother got home in the nick of time and called the police. Meeting people who I could date traditionally was quite a challenge since I'm such an introvert. I don't like going out and try to keep my circle of friends really small. When I turned 28 years old, I felt the pressure to settle down. Yet, I didn't have a potential boyfriend. I was tired of being asked when I would settle down and therefore decided to try out an online dating app, Tinder. It took some time to find someone I was interested in, but I kept on checking one guy's profile, known as Sam. We went out on a few dates in public places before I finally invited him over to my house. We both liked watching movies, and we had a few common ones that I figured we could watch together. Since I'd known Sam for some time now, I figured inviting him over was harmless. This was one of the worst mistakes I've ever made. During the day of our meeting, Sam showed up at my house with two of his friends. Though he explained that we would have a better time with his friends present, I was so bored already. They'd come with some drinks, and I decided to keep myself busy with drinking. Sam kept his distance from me and entertained his friends. When I went to the bathroom, one of his friends spiked my drink. The next thing I remember was being in my bed half naked. I realized that Sam and his friends had taken advantage of me. I stayed there helpless, and they were nowhere to be seen. My best friend had met the love of her life on a popular dating app known as Tinder. They were a couple I admired since they seemed so perfect together. They gave me hope that maybe I would meet my Mr. Right despite my bad luck in relationships. My best friend was always looking out for me, and she taught me how to start looking for an ideal man on Tinder. Though I was hesitant at first, her relationship gave me hope. I met one guy on the app who seemed to be nice. After a few months of messaging, we decided to meet up. He suggested we meet up in a luxurious hotel, and I was pretty excited about that. On the day of our meet, I arrived earlier than him and decided to wait. I was a little desperate, and so I waited for more than 30 minutes. As I was seated across the door, a woman about my age showed up and sat opposite of my table. She started yelling at me, claiming that I was trying to steal her husband. She had been following up on our conversation with the guy I'd met online and had set up the meet. As soon as I realized it was a setup, I tried to leave the hotel, but I was unsuccessful. She hit me with an object, and the next thing I remember is me waking up in the back of a car. This lady had not only kidnapped me, but also left me in the middle of nowhere. Since she took my phone, it took me hours to find my way back home. Being a teenager was really challenging for me. I always felt like my parents hated me, even though they did their best to support and love me. Since we're not that close, I preferred spending time in my room rather than in the living room with them after school. I spent most of my evenings on my laptop watching movies and interacting with guys online. I was quite active on Tinder and had gone out on a few dates with some guys I'd met on the app. Though most of the Tinder dates were normal, one of them got me in some serious trouble. I met this guy who called himself Quinn. He gave me his number and we started messaging and getting close. After a few meetings, Quinn asked me to go on a road trip. At this point, I wasn't speaking to my parents and wished I could just get away. When Quinn suggested we get away, I said yes without hesitation. I was so stupid that I did not realize that the guy was high. Though he was a total stranger, I felt like he understood me more than my parents. He gave me drugs, and I started smoking just to defy my parents. On the way to our destination, a policeman stopped us and did a check on the vehicle. I was so shocked to learn that Quinn had spent a decade in prison. The car was full of well-hidden drugs, and I could not convince the policeman that I was innocent since I was so high. I spent that day in a cell, and when I went back home, I blocked him. Campus was the best time of my life. I loved the freedom to do whatever I wanted without my folks breathing down my neck. Unlike high school, reading was not the only activity on campus. I loved partying and meeting new people. The first time I heard about the Tinder app, I didn't hesitate to try it out. I was not necessarily looking for anything serious, but I just wanted to pass the time and chat with interesting people. When I got my first Tinder match, I was so excited that the whole class knew about it. Though the guy was quite good looking, he turned out to be a serial killer. We started dating. Things seemed to be flowing slowly. One day at his house, I discovered a secret room behind the closet while he was out running some errands. What I found in the room left me paralyzed with fear. The room contained human heads stored in glass jars. I froze and couldn't move for some time. The next thing I heard was the main gate opening since the guy was back. Shaking, I exited the room and left no traces of my presence. I went back to the living room and struggled to pretend that everything was fine. After some time, I excused myself and went back to school. It took me months to get over what I'd seen, and I had to go to counseling. Since then, I blocked the guy and have never tried the Tinder app again.